My friend invited me on a bike ride on fake Halloween in an area of the San Rafael Swell called the Wedge. The route we took was about 26 miles with a little over 1,000 feet of total elevation gain. The map shape of the trail is a little odd. I'll let Jonathan Coulton explain that.
Just pick a point called T in the complex plane. Let C1 be Z squared plus C. Z2 is Z1 squared plus C. Z3 is Z2 squared plus C. And so on. If the series of Z's will always stay close to Z and never trend away, that point is in the Mandelbrot Set.
The trail wasn't at all steep. It was, however, very beautiful, and there were lots of rocks in the path that kept it interesting for the 15 miles or so of the rim of the canyons and draws that formed the path. This area is called the Little Grand Canyon for good reason. All of the slot canyons and draws that we rode around are dry without any rain since they aren't very large. The San Rafael River is only visible from the first segment until you turn north and follow the rim. The first area was the only part next to any extremely high drop-offs, but there were a lot of areas with picturesque views of the network of canyons and draws formed by water flow. The trail does dump out at a few different locations, so most of it is accessible to hikers or people that don't want to ride as far. We really only saw a few people on foot, while most of the people enjoying the trail were riding bicycles like we were. The rim trail is about 15 miles, and if you take the road back to the trailhead where you started, then you can shorten the trip back. We opted for that on the one side, but when we got to the top of the formation, we decided to jump back on the single track since that's what we drove all the way out here to ride instead of just dirt roads. It didn't look to me like most of the other cyclists were doing the full trail, but instead were doing it in segments. We couldn't have asked for better weather for desert riding as the temperatures peaked out in the 60s toward the end of the ride, which started to make me sweat a little. It had been much cooler at only 48 according to the thermometer of my truck. 48 may sound cold, but it really wasn't bad because we were in the sun. As mentioned earlier, the trail was filled with rocks that were fun to climb or descend from. None of the obstacles were super difficult, but many required a well-timed lift of the front wheel to get it to pop up onto the steeper steps. On my last ride with another friend at the Timpanogos Bike Park, I was practicing climbing steps. There was a particularly difficult part of the obstacle course for me there, and I sessioned it a lot of times, and not without ending up under my bicycle at least once. I feel like that practice was very useful for this ride because I spent a lot of time climbing steep rocky steps out here. I really feel like my new bike was in its element on this trail because the plus-size tires did a great job at absorbing all of the bumps and rolled well over the sharp sandstone. There were only a couple places that I wasn't able to climb up on the first try, and in both cases, I can blame fatigue, which is hard to ignore when you're on your bike for almost 4 hours. Oh, there. Well, I am grateful for the shorter crank length on this thing. Maybe only 5 millimeters, but it's enough. I love the landscape here in Utah. I understand why so much of the territory gets earmarked up for the national parks, but I really don't like it. Ooh. This is definitely worth the drive. This canyon was every bit as beautiful as anything you might see in Zion National Park. That dropped off fast, dang. But because this isn't a national park, it's accessible through the Bureau of Land Management, and there are lots of opportunities for camping and exploring. Being more remote, it doesn't get trafficked as much as a national park, and the federal government isn't putting up ropes to prevent people from walking anywhere. I love the wild lands of Utah and being able to access them on a bicycle or ATV/Jeep like in Moab. Utah has done a great job, in my opinion, of preserving sites of particular beauty or interest without needing help from the federal government. Goblin Valley is a great example of that. It is very unorganized in access to the hoodoos, with only one entrance down into the valley, but once you are down there, you can just explore and climb. It is really like a jungle gym for children of all ages. That is really the core of how I love to experience the world. I like to see the world, but I want to touch it too. I believe that God made this world for everyone, and not just to look at with our eyes, but to experience its vastness through exploration with all of our senses. I can access so much more on my bike than any other way because of how easy it is to cover so much distance while still enjoying the quiet vastness of this earth. My friend and I stopped and marveled at just how quiet it was. Had we not broken the silence with our own speech, the only things we could hear were the desert animals. Too often we ask others what we are allowed to do instead of just going out and seeing what we can do. The information age has given us so much opportunity to share with each other through the internet, but you miss out on so many dimensions of the world if you only ever experience it through a screen. You don't feel the weight of your body as you heft it onto that ledge. You don't smell the sage or that far-off skunk. You don't feel the cool breeze caress your skin as you wind your way through the trees. We really aren't meant to be cooped up in our climate-controlled caves, and we are so much healthier when we spend more time away from the comforts of home. If I have a goal for making this video, it is to remind you that the world is so much bigger than what you can experience through whatever screen you're viewing this on. I hope to inspire you to put it down and go experience your life. You may just find that life is the most worthwhile when you are doing something. And don't be shy to invite a friend or neighbor to go on an adventure with you. Oh wow, yeah, look at that. Yeah, I'm not sure I would sit on it either. I promise you'll be glad you did. Oop.